I was a pastor's kid. It started slow. I started OnlyFans. I made like $85,000 the first month.
What was it about you that was able to make $1 million a year?
My biggest thing that I sold was that I'm multiple girls.
Oh,
I put all of that energy into creating Nala.
How much money do you have?
Who's Nala?
9.
Ooh, let's close that. Guys, in this video, I'm going to watch and consume the entire video. And then, well, it's 2 hours, so we'll see. But this is super, super, super interesting. We're going to watch it, and then we're going to give our feedback near the end. Leave your suggestions in the comment section down below on what I should watch next. Thank you, subscriber, for pushing this to me. Let's get that from the beginning.
Pastor's kid. It started slow.
Wow.
I started OnlyFans. I made like $85,000 the first month.
What was it about you that was able to make $1 million a year?
My biggest thing that I sold was that I'm multiple girls. I put all of that energy into creating Nala.
How much money do you have at this point?
9 million.
Oh.
My parents kind of disowned me.
That sounds catastrophic.
Bless her.
I've never really dove into that feeling.
Yeah.
Never talked about this. What's the point of all this money when I don't have feelings?
Is that
when
the
you
moment
lose
where
your
you
soul.
say, all right, I got to start getting out of this thing?
I was sobbing. I was looking at my fireplace. I grabbed the Bible. I was
Guys.
like, God, I need an answer now. I truly
Amen.
need an answer now. And he gave me an answer.
Amen.
What did he say?
Already, I'm looking forward to this. God bless you, Michael.
One of the underappreciated aspects of temptation is that it's very tempting. Money, sex, fame.
Drugs.
My guest today is someone who has had all of those things in spades and then came to regret it and totally cut it all off. And that would be one of the top only performers, a former only performer, Nala Ray. Nala, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, Michael.
God is
So,
good.
I'm not just saying this to seem like goody-goody. I actually am unfamiliar with your work,
Oh, that's okay.
your former work.
Good. That's
Now
probably
you're on
great.
a totally different,
Yeah, it's a
but
good
this
thing.
has all happened very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You rose to fame as one of the top performers on one of the top sites in the world, and you made a ton of money and you got extremely famous. Then you quit it all. We'll get into that. And now you're living a totally different life.
Yes, sir.
Take me back to
Crazy.
the beginning.
So the beginning started about 5 years ago if we're talking about going back to the beginning of when I started.
I want to go back to the beginning.
Ooh, like little Nala.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Good question, Michael.
as far back as I can remember, I have been in a big family. I was raised with 4 other children, and they're all my parents. But we were a family of 7. We weren't always like a religious family. It was probably when I was 10 years old that we I had lost my house in a tornado. And then my parents went through a divorce, and we weren't serving the Lord then. But it was crazy how God brought us back together, and then my parents remarried within a span of a couple of years. So there was a lot of stuff that had happened in my life that was just absolutely crazy for a kid to go through.
How old were you when your parents divorced?
Almost 11 years old, because we had just lost our house, like completely lost everything in the tornado. I was living in Missouri at the time. And then my parents divorced because it was a lot to go through, honestly. It's a big family. And like losing everything that you worked for was just gone. I absolutely destroyed. So, and then having to provide for kids. So I can understand like the emotional strain that my dad probably carried to provide for his family. And then that was just all gone. So my parents divorced, and then they actually got saved during the process that they were divorced. You know, they really had this come to Christ moment. And so I was almost 11, and then they got remarried on Christmas Eve. So that was just like, it was really cool. So to see your family like reunited again. And from there, my family really started diving into being led by my parents, like religion, which was like Baptist. We were Baptist Christians. And so interestingly enough, I don't know how this even came a part of my dad's life, but he began preaching. So again, I can't even go back that far in my brain to when that actually started for my dad, but he had been a pastor and evangelist for I'd say like 10 years. So after all that happened.
So he became a evangelist pastor after they got remarried, or so not before?
No, not before.
Zeal of a convert.
Yes.
Okay.
That was pretty much it. So became a pastor, was pastoring a couple churches, and the sorrowful part of that was that like some of the churches had church splits. So we went through some church splits through that like religion of being a Baptist, and it wasn't really the religion, I think, but it was just like the people in the church couldn't get along, and I don't feel like that's really Christ. You know, that's not Christ's heart, is for us to divide, but to build and have unity together.
Forgive my ignorance on a church split.
Yeah.
I am a mackerel snapping papist, a Catholic, and so we've had some splits. They're like historic schisms, you know, between the East and the West. And
yes.
So, but we don't have, I think, what you're describing, which is, you mean like so it's a relatively small congregation, and then one day they just decide we're done.
No,
some of us are
more like the church actually splits in half. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No,
lightning strikes.
That's it. Yes. So people like deacons or the pastor, and there's other roles in the church. They disagree continuously for whatever amount of time, and it gets worse and worse. And people tell their sides to half the church, and other people take other sides. And after that, the church really just cannot function together because there's almost drama involved, or it's just other people's opinions, and people do not want to be in the church because it's uncomfortable now, you know, because everyone knows the situation. Nothing's really being spoken about except for like behind backs. And that's just,
right. So then
it's a mess.
So it's like a divorce.
It truly is, just like a divorce, and the kids are the denomination, you know, like the sheep in the church. So we went through a couple of those, and it was crazy because some of the people in the church just didn't like what my dad had to say. He's a very blunt pastor. He's very just like, will tell you what it is and preaches from the Word of God. And some people didn't agree with it. And, you know, I was really young too, so I don't understand all of it at the time. Like I was probably like 11, 12, 13 years old. And while so much had happened. And so it's like going through divorce after divorce after divorce.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because, you know, you get to know people in that church, and you might not fall in love with them, but they became a big part of your life. And then now you see them for something very different because they don't like your dad.
Yeah.
And then you feel this restraint from wanting to be around them, speak to them, or, you know, even consider their viewpoint on it because that's your father. So we went through a couple of church splits and moved around, and you know, at the time, I was never even considering, oh, it's my dad, and I'm not blaming him in any manner. But now that I have Christ in my heart as an adult and not a child, I'm looking at things differently and just trying to test the spirit, because that's what the Bible asks us to do. You know, when you're unsure about something, test the spirit, look at the fruit of the spirit. And I've been actually going over that in my head. And it's not that I can remember one specific sermon of his or anything, but I'm looking at him as a person and his character, and, you know, what we did as a pastor's family. And being a pastor's family, I have to tell you, is one of the roughest jobs. You don't get paid for it either, but like, it's a rough place to be in your life if your family isn't like in unity, and our family just wasn't in unity in any manner.
This is another area where my popery will give me some ignorance, which is, you know, priests don't get married in the Catholic Church.
I did not know that, so that's my ignorance.
They're celibate and they don't get married. So there's a whole long historical conversation about that. But as a result, I'm totally unfamiliar with this idea of a pastor having a family. And I imagine that would be extremely
hard,
stressful, and very difficult, both for him and for the family. Even what you're describing, I mean, the traditional understanding of the family, of a marriage, is as a symbol of Christ's love for his church.
Absolutely.
And so everything you're describing is just, as you say, a divorce after a divorce after a divorce. One of the four marks of the church.
There's just no unity anywhere.
Is the unity? Yeah, that's supposed to be one of the four marks.
How can you feel safe in any atmosphere, including your home atmosphere? So I truly never felt safe, you know, because when we go to church, there's like some face we have to put on. You can't be like, you need to be the strong people for the church.
Right.
You
An
cannot be the
example.
weak ones.
You're the
for
face of the church.
Absolutely.
example.
And I have a really big issue with that now, like looking back.
I know
like,
what she's talking about. Trust
being
me.
vulnerable with people is how people trust you as well. You can't always put on this strong face and expect people to trust you.
Yep.
Because I don't trust people like that in my day-to-day. Like if you're always the same consistently and I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't you opening up to me? Why aren't you being vulnerable with me? Because
Right.
that's a good relationship, right?
A priest friend of mine once wrote that the problem with the modern idea of the feel-good religion, the real weakness of feel-good religion, is feeling bad.
Wow.
Because people feel bad sometimes. And
Absolutely
if your whole
you do.
religion is about just, strong face, happy-go-lucky, well, then you're going to begin to have doubts.
That's a really good point, honestly. But there was really not much of that. And if I did feel that way, it was at home in secret and private, And again, I did not have a good relationship with my parents, and I'm not blaming them in any manner. I didn't know how to have a relationship with my parents because I was a pastor's kid. Like, I don't think people understand the roles of a pastor's family. And I'm here
I
to
do.
share it truly. As a pastor's daughter, you're kind of expected to just like be the front, right? So anytime someone's walking in the door when church starts, you're at the front. You're the first ones to get there and the last to leave. I
Yep.
ran Sunday schools. I had to be
Yep.
included in anything that the church wanted to, like there was people in the church who felt led to open up like a puppet class. I had to be a part of it because I had to show support. The choir, I had to be a part of that because I had to show support. Sunday
Crazy.
school, Bible school, vacation Bible school, any
Everything.
program that there was, the family of the church is expected to represent.
It's like a political family, like a Congress.
That is such a great way to look at it, honestly. And it's so difficult because it's just like show face, show face, show face, show face.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Like you don't truly get to be like your own person. You're just your family. You know what I mean? You're a part of your family. You need to listen to your parents. And I'm really young at this point, so it's just like I have no choice. And growing up in churches, like I didn't have very many kid friends at all, unless they were children, because I was watching them in Sunday school, so their parents could be in service. So, which I loved personally sometimes because I got to eat snacks with them, and that was the best part. But and I love children, so it was fun for sure. It wasn't all gloom and doom, nothing. But now as I'm an adult, I look back at this and I'm reflecting. For the longest time, I pushed it away out of my head because it was very painful to go back through that and just like think about so many times where I struggled and there just wasn't anybody there. But the point I was trying to make was, growing up, I only truly had like adult friends. Like I grew up at 13 years
That's
old.
interesting.
Were there
pretty
not
much.
young people in the church community?
There were.
Good question.
We had very small churches though. It's not like mega churches by any means. Like maybe 100 people in the church, maybe less. Like it was never big, which 100 people is a lot. But when you're catering so much to things, like I really grew up at a younger age. And I do remember these two girls that went to my last church that my dad pastored, and they went to public school and I was homeschooled like almost my entire life. I just could not relate to them.
Yeah.
They were worried about like what they were wearing to school and what they were getting. And I'm like, I just share my sister's clothing, so I don't know like what you're talking about. And I just never felt like I fit in with them. It was that kind of a relationship. So
Well, I've noticed friends of mine who are homeschooled, and many of them were, they are much more mature, usually, probably because they're spending more time around adults.
yeah, a little bit socially
Certainly.
awkward though. as well.
Sometimes that they have
I've met
rap
some
for that.
homeschool kids like that, where me and my siblings would be like, man, they're weird. Like, are we like that? So, because they don't get out
She's got
very
a
much.
personality.
But thankfully, like, we were in church, so we were just always being social with people, regardless if it was just mainly adults. But
Right.
yeah, so I do realize that homeschool kids can be more mature, but also I think that's because of their studies are being very honed in on. Like in public school, the teacher can't speak to one student, they're teaching a whole class instead of really paying attention to that one child. In homeschooling, I was the only one in my grade and my mom was my teacher.
Right.
So like I was very honed in on as a
Makes
child.
prom very awkward, but that's.
Oh my gosh, I would have loved to go to prom for sure. I wanted all of that. I didn't even have like a graduation ceremony. I was just like, oh, you're graduated now, that's great. I'm like, okay. So I feel like I did miss out on a lot, but I would not take it. I'm very thankful my parents chose that direction. I don't only feel kind of book smart, but I do feel very street smart in that manner too. So I'm very
usually you'd hear
thankful.
the opposite. You'd hear a homeschooler say,
Book smart.
look, I'm really book smart, but I don't have any street smarts. And I was a public school kid. And you know, I got a little bit of book learning because it was a good public school.
Yeah.
But you get much more street smarts from public
Yeah.
school than you do book smarts. But you're saying it's the opposite.
Well, for me, my dad is very, very street smart, and my mom is very, very book smart. So I got both of their teachings, and I'm a very hands-on person instead of more of a bookworm.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy reading, depending on the book. But I am very hands-on to learn. So I feel like that's where my critical thinking came in. Like while I was growing up, I started working at a very young age, like just turned 15, got a job.
What was the job?
I worked at Hardee's.
Hardee's. Oh, yeah.
I don't know Hardee's.
Yeah.
I'm friends with the former head of Hardee's.
That's awesome.
Maybe you guys worked together.
I don't
probably
know.
at different levels. Of
I
the
worked in,
corporation.
it was when I worked in, I was in Illinois.
Okay.
So yeah, but I loved it. I love working so much. When I got my first job, I felt so independent. I bought my first car by myself. My parents didn't help with that. I wanted to be out of the home so bad. And that job provided those hours away.
Now, did your siblings want to get out of the home too? They did.
Yes, absolutely.
And so at this point, because I'm trying to track how things start to go in another direction. You and your family, you're basically all on the same page, doing the same
it all
kind of
sounds good.
thing.
Yep.
Christian.
This is age 15-ish, 16,
Yes.
somewhere around there. Okay. So you want to get out, you want to be independent, then what?
Okay, so I was about 15, 16. I had worked at Hardee's for like 2 years. I got another job in fast food that didn't last very long because I knew I didn't want to be in fast food anymore. I got a job as a waitress for a breakfast and lunch place. And I loved that job. That really helped. That was when I started going to college around 18. So right when I graduated, I got right into college. And I went
This is a local college, or you?
Yeah,
went,
State
okay.
College of Florida.
Right.
So I went there for 2 years. I was studying to become a dental hygienist because I was like, hey, I like teeth. This is cool. Like, let's do it. Every time I went to the dentist, I had a great experience. And I was like, I could do this.
What? Who has every time I go to the dentist, they make my mouth bleed because I go once every 5 years, and then they yell at me for not flossing properly.
Thanks.
But you had a good.
I wanted to be that person
You're the
that
one
yelled at
person.
others.
A lot of control.
Yeah, but I'm very interested in the anatomy of human body and like the face and everything. So I loved my classes. Unfortunately, I didn't stay in, but it was not short after I had gotten a job in surgery scheduling for an orthopedic company. So I felt like my medical career was kind of taking off actually without a full degree.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, and I really loved orthopedics. Again, I just love the human body. So it just kind of fell into that category. So
Why do you think you love the human body?
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated.
Do you have any sense of where that might have come from, or?
Our creator, I think, but at the time I
The
didn't know it.
incarnation, yeah.
The absolute being a creation of his. But at the time I didn't think about it like that. I was just fascinated by the human body. And when I went through my anatomy and physiology classes, I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. And then I went through labs dissecting cats, and I thought that was amazing. And
It's so
so
interesting to hear you say that, because a lot of modern religion, they tell you body doesn't matter at all. It's all, it's just kind of mamby-pamby stuff in your head. But the ancient Christian writer Tertullian famously said, the flesh is the hinge of salvation. The faith is a sacramental faith, so you receive the Holy Eucharist or any of the sacraments. And the idea is it's a meeting of the physical with the metaphysical.
Wow.
And that's lost on so many people in modern life. But you're saying that actually, wittingly or unwittingly, was drawing you to the body.
I love the human body. I think it's artwork. I really do. Like,
Interesting.
I when I started this journey on OnlyFans, I was very pro nudity, because I love the human body. I think we're beautiful, truly. I have a different form of that love now for it's more, I love what God created instead of just nudity, so, and that was.
What do you see as the distinction?
Perversion. That's pretty much the distinction I feel now is like promiscuity versus, acceptance of something beautiful and seeing it for what God created it to be and how God wants it to be used instead of being perverted in it.
Right. In almost a kind of idolatry. Like you think, we could all name aspects of the human body that we are
Yes, prone to.
But if you consider that, say in the context of marriage, as it ought to be, and you say, okay, I really, this part's kind of nice, and this, but if you consider that as part of the integrated whole of the person, that is then also a composite of body and soul, then that's all great. It's like a song of songs, and it's really good. We're not trying to suppress that desire.
Nope.
But if you make an idol, you have a thing for this body part or that body part, then it really becomes, in the true sense of the word, a fetish.
It does.
Like a fetish is a term that refers to pagan idolatry.
Yes.
Right, like you could have a fetish for some weird, idol statue kind of thing.
Of course, just like you can have a foot fetish.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or any, really any physical aspect.
Absolutely.
Which seems to be so prominent today.
Yes. We live in a very evil and adulterous generation. So perversion is a very big part of that, I think.
There's so much more to say. First, though, go to preborn.com/Knowles.
This is really good
I am
so
here today because exactly 34 years ago, almost to the minute, my mother chose life. You are here today because your mother chose life. The miracle of life is a gift that everyone deserves because every life is precious. That is why this show has partnered with Preborn's network of clinics. These ultrasounds are more than just a medical procedure. They're a gateway to a mother's
I need to
heart.
stop playing
the
these
moment she
chess
hears her baby's
games
heartbeat, the odds of her
whilst
choosing
watching
life
something. I can't
double.
concentrate.
One ultrasound costs only $28. Perversion.
Yes. It started slow, kind of.
Okay.
But in that me being lost, so I was in that job of orthopedics for 2.5 years, going on 3. It was when I got the opportunity to start Only. And it was right after COVID had just gotten out. Like, it was still like a mystery kind of, but we were hearing it online. I was hearing about TikTok and people were kind of making fun of it, but it hadn't like shut everything down yet. So this was super early 2020, like January. I had gotten reached out to by someone on social media, and I was not big on social media at any manner.
You just had a personal...
Just a personal fitness
Instagram
page,
or something?
like I was a nobody pretty much, like very low following, didn't have a Twitter, didn't have like a Snapchat, didn't have a Facebook.
But it was fitness.
Fitness.
So there's also that time, you're into the orthopedics, you're into fitness.
I am.
Okay.
I really love fitness. I've been working out since I was like 18. Before my brother went off to the Air Force, I started working out with him in the gym, and it was just awesome. And then I carried all that over after he left for the Air Force.
I worked out once.
Once?
Didn't take.
You didn't like it?
No, not for me. No.
I enjoy pushing yourself. I enjoy pain in that manner because I have a hard time before I met Christ. I have a hard time feeling things. I really do. And
What do you mean by that?
I feel numb. I felt numb. It's really difficult it was difficult for me to feel things like sadness. Like I felt like I never cried. I could get angry and my temper was probably a little worse than it should have been, but crying was like not a big thing for me. I didn't feel very emotional. I felt very numb to things, and I didn't have a lot of friends either. So and I chose that.
Yeah, so
I truly chose that because I was sick of having people in my life that would just come to me and complain about things and never want to change. I'm like, I'm the kind of person that will tell you, hey, you effed up.
Yeah.
You should probably do something about that. I'm here, but don't come to me and just cry and then cry about the same thing again and come back and do the same thing. I'm not going to listen after a certain period.
Are you a man? You sort of sound like a man.
See, this is a thing I've actually gotten asked before, but not like indirectly, like, are you a man? I'm definitely a female. I'm a woman from birth, and I love that. But I have very masked emotions.
She's got
and I don't know if that's
contagious
because of how I was
Likeable.
raised.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Just a lot that I've gone through.
When you say you have masked emotions, is it that you have them but you don't express them? Or you're saying you don't even really have them? You are just actually kind of numb?
I do feel as though they were masked because now, since I gave my life to Christ, I don't feel like that anymore. So I feel like damage was done in my past that just kind of suppressed. And I felt as though I needed to be strong.
Yeah.
And I was on my own. So I could be on my own and crying, or I could be on my own and independent and like fearless and strong, what I believed strong looked like. And I didn't have a lot of people in my life, including my parents and my siblings. And siblings are a funny thing because like, you like want to kill each other when you're younger. And then when you grow up, you kind of go through this phase sometimes where you don't speak. And then when you're an adult, you're like, there's no reason not to speak. Like we want to speak and we want to be cordial. We want to see each other. It's amazing. It's an actual like phenomenon to me. When you see your siblings grow up next to you, you take a little bit of a break. And then the next time you revisit them, in my case, they're full grown adults.
Right.
They're living lives. They have children. They've been married and they're completely different people.
So that's more than a little bit of a break.
Yes, it was like a couple years, like 3-4 years. So.
But when you were growing up, were your siblings like you in the sense that they didn't? No.
No.
So you were different.
A little different, but I'm also the middle child. So I feel like the middle child is just odd, just an oddball. Yeah. So whether that be due to like no love or whatever that is, it's not that my parents didn't love me. They loved me in their own way, but it was like, do you know about like the love languages?
A little bit.
Okay.
I always thought of myself as a Casanova, but I don't know the specific
What's
jargon.
that definition?
Well, I'm of Italian descent.
Me too.
Are you? Mm-hmm. That's why we get along. Yes. But when you say love languages, you're referring to a technical kind of thing?
Yeah, so there's like equivalently like 5 love languages, like physical touch, acts of service, gifts, words of affection, and there's one more, quality time.
For mine, it's food for me.
Food, okay, that's somewhere in there. I love food too. I love to cook too. Love to cook. But there's like this.
They should get married.
Love language test that you can take, and it just kind of tells you what your physical love language is. Mine is physical touch. I feel the most loved when I'm physically touched, whether it be holding hands, a pat on the back, a hug. That is how I mainly accept and feel very loved. Like you have a love tank, mine gets filled up by physical touch. Okay. So, and it's not like sexual. It's completely just really nice physical touch. Again, it can just be like a pat on the back or, a touch. But for everyone, it's different. And so what I mean by that is like my parents I don't feel as though they loved me in the way that I feel loved.
Didn't give you a hug?
My mom was a very like, more stern disciplinarian. She's so sweet, but it's not like, she's not like a hugger or anything, like at all, like doesn't touch kind of thing. Yeah. And then my dad being like respectful because I'm a woman, doesn't do that at all, like will not touch like that. So, and I was like, okay, I get it, but like I just need love, So, the craziest thing is I went through counseling in my teenage years because I was acting out like crazy and couldn't explain it to myself. My parents didn't know what was going on with me. And I went to a counselor and she specifically said the reason I was acting out was because I was looking for love. And
when you say acting out, what do you mean?
So I was like sneaking out of my house when I was 15, 16 years old. Like sneaking out the window at like 1 or 2 in the morning when the whole house had went to sleep, meeting boys, meeting random people. I wasn't drinking, doing drugs, partying. I just wanted to be around people and have freedom. I had such a ruch from sneaking out of my house because it was like the only form of freedom that I felt like I had control over. And it was such a dark time in my life, and my parents ended up calling the cops on me, and that was like the last time I did it.
How did you even find these people if you're in this
online, like just random. I had an iPod, that I had a phone, but it didn't have internet because my parents were like very strict about that. But I had secretly bought an iPod off of line, like Craigslist or something, and connected it to my Wi-Fi and was just like meeting people like that. And that was the most dangerous thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But I didn't care.
So you're meeting them on Facebook or something? Or
Facebook or like some kind of apps, like a dating app or something like that. I can't remember specifically right now, but one was off Facebook for sure. I did not care. I was just like, or if I met them in person, I'd get their details like secretly and then like we'd talk like that. But I just really wanted attention and I knew it was like physically. So I have been like, I feel as though I'm a very like sexual, like hyperactive person. Yeah. That's what I told myself for the longest time because that's what I was craving. But I think truly it was like physical touch, but in like a loving way and not a sexual way.
Right, right.
So, but
Yeah.
that's what the counselor was like trying to explain
Let
to
me
me
know what
was
you
that
guys think about
she
that
feels
in the
as though I'm
comment section.
acting out in these ways, like these dramatic ways to one, get attention, and two, like just feel love. That love that I'm not feeling at home because my parents are focused on the church and not their kids. So, like, you can be a shepherd of the sheep in the church, but if you're not being a shepherd in your own home,
Right.
they're turning into wolves over here, starving.
Charity is the most important virtue, but charity begins at home.
Love. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. So I don't know anything about running a family, so I can't imagine how difficult it could have been, for sure. I'm not
parents.
judging my parents in any manner. I think they did the best they could, truly. I'm not blaming them or anyone for my actions at all. It was completely my choice. We all have free will, don't we?
We do, though our will is conditioned by our circumstances. And our
I agree
education.
with that completely. When I watched your last podcast on that, I was like, wow, speak truth.
I know it's not a very it's not a very politically correct view now because it's not a very liberal view.
Yeah.
But no, obviously, this is why education is so important. It's why we call it liberal education. Is it not in like the modern political sense, but in the sense that the way that we learn to use our freedom, to make sense of our freedom, is through education and cultivating intellectual virtues, but also moral virtues that are habits. And if something goes wrong in that instruction, you're liable to go wrong. You won't be able to exercise your free will.
Absolutely.
In a
And if you're not
productive way.
educated well on the topic, or which who is at any age, you're not educated on everything, but you back up on things that you were kind of influenced by. Like if you don't actively have a knowledge about it, you kind of kick in with, well, this is what I know,
Yeah.
This is what I've experienced. That's how I kind of feel about it. And again, it's not blaming my parents in any manner. I'm very thankful for my parents. But
But something
it
went
really
wrong.
directed me, in a weird way, for sure. I really do believe that. I'm really happy that, I wouldn't take any of it back because it still ended up shaping me into the person I am now. No matter what, like hurt, it's a beautiful thing.
You wouldn't take what back? Your actions or the way you were raised?
Both, actually. My actions leading up to only my actions on only. Of course, I'm ashamed of it. And I do want to be very clear about that. In no way, shape, or form should anyone go through that and be like, oh, I'll just get saved later, or I'll just get off after that, or who cares about what my reputation is later? You should absolutely care about
I like
who
what
you
she
are,
said.
who you're going
She's
to be.
thinking.
And I don't think people now being influenced by it understand the direct harm it will do to your mind, your body, and your soul.
So it sounds like you're saying you do regret it. You just
Core. The actions, absolutely. Would I take it back? No. And this is the reasoning. Because I feel like my testimony is very strong now. In Paul in the Bible, or Saul, who turned to Paul in the Bible, was absolutely persecuting and killing Christians, and holding the coat for people stoning the apostles, right? So he got radically changed on the road to Damascus, completely changed, was blinded even, and regained his sight, but then radically got saved by God himself and changed and became a living, walking testimony to people who were just like him, or so many others. He started writing letters to the churches, bluntly calling them out or praising them for what they're doing in the community of Christ. And I thought that was so bold. But why I say I wouldn't take it back is because God could absolutely use me if I never would have gotten on OnlyFans. I don't need to have that testimony to be able to reach people.
You too.
But
That's true.
if you were a young girl thinking about starting an OnlyFans and being influenced by this current generation to start an OnlyFans, would you listen to the person that's never been on OnlyFans, never had any direct connection to it, saying, don't do it, don't do it? Or would you listen to the person at the top of the hill who's saying, there's a cliff after this?
right. You might
I've
listen. You
made
might
it.
listen to both.
You could, absolutely, depending on so many different things. But I'm
That's
stubborn.
not really.
So,
I mean,
and
yeah, but-
I'm one of those hands-on people that kind of want to figure it out for myself.
She's got a point.
I personally would listen to the person at the top of the hill being like, do not
100%.
come up here.
Yeah.
100%.
Please, this is fatal. Other than someone who really doesn't have a whole bunch of knowledge on it and hasn't even might not even be experiencing the feelings and whatever that person's going through, you know, a lot of insecurities. I say insecurities because that's exactly how I was feeling in my life when I decided to join OnlyFans, about my looks, about how people perceived me, being someone online. Like there was a lot of pressure.
So you weren't, when you say you have insecurities about your looks or had them then, it's not that you joined because you thought, I'm hot and I can make a buck. You're saying, I think I'm ugly or something.
I needed to be noticed. Yeah. And a lot of people want to point that out about me, like, oh, you just want attention. Even now, I just want attention. I want God to have the attention, full and foremost. About anything that I say now, it's about him and not me anymore. And I love that. I'm so happy to have him take center stage and me be in the back with a clipboard.
Yeah.
You know?
Cupio dissolvi, to quote St. Paul.
So, but then I was in such a horrible place in my mental. Again, not feeling much, wasn't crying. I went through quite a few really hard relationships that made me feel even worse about myself. And I understand that it was my choice.
This is before?
Before only, yes. So I went through quite a few relationships. I didn't have good friends at all. I wasn't in contact with my parents like that.
So you already had a falling out with your parents at this point? Before?
It wasn't as dramatic as the one when I started only, but I was not like, I was speaking to my dad, but we weren't like good.
Tight.
And my mom and I just like barely ever spoke. So her and I have never really had a good relationship, although I do hope that changes. We still don't have a good relationship, and I'm not quite sure why. But, you know, in my mind, I expected this change to be like the prodigal son returning, you know?
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, I hope that's something like what it's like to return home whole, and not whole. He didn't come back whole. He came back broken,
with humility.
you know? And then he comes back to his home, you know, where he belongs, and got an amazing welcome. I'm not
had a
expecting
delicious fatted calf. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
No, but that's not exactly it. He came back asking, he acknowledged what he'd done wrong. He said, I wronged, you know what, take me as a slave instead. But he came back with humility. So I think that is where it's, you know, he came back, I don't know how she came back, but it doesn't sound like, you know, because from what she's saying, but he came back with so much humility, like, I messed up, please. If you're not going to accept me as your child, at least take me as a slave, one of your slaves. And then, you know, the rest was, obviously, I'm not going to take you as my slave. You're my son, blah, blah, blah. You've been forgiven, blah, blah, blah.
Kind of broke my heart a little bit. But
With either of your parents, it didn't happen.
This change to be like the prodigal son returning, you know?
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, I hope that's something like what it's like to return home whole, and not whole. He didn't come back whole. He came back broken, you know? And then he comes back to his home, you know, where he belongs, and got an amazing welcome. I'm not
had a
expecting
delicious fatted calf. Yeah.
Yes. And I wanted that, but it did not happen at all. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit. But
With either of your parents, it didn't happen.
In fact, they're actually getting another divorce.
Uh-oh,
right now.
what the heck?
So,
Oh, man, that's brutal.
Isn't it?
yeah. But it's okay, you know? It's okay.
That is brutal indeed.
And God's overarching providence, all things will be turned to good. Doesn't make it any more pleasant at the time.
It doesn't, but this is human feeling, you know, and we all experience things. And honestly, I'm thankful for the feeling. You know, I'm thankful to be able to feel again. I actually praise God that I can feel things. I praise God when I'm crying. I praise God when I'm happy, because it all belongs to him anyway. He is our creator.
I rejoice in my sufferings. It's a very traditional
Absolutely.
view. Well, it's also downplayed in modern religion, which is that suffering is sanctifying because it joins us to the sufferings of Christ on the cross.
It does. Exactly. I just heard that yesterday too, and I could not be more just shaken by that. I was like, wow. When Christ was suffering on the cross, like he was able to forgive people who were killing him. And that was so beautiful. Like he wasn't rejoicing in the suffering, but thankful for it. And I was like, wow, you know, and he changed the world completely. He changed the world. So,
and created it.
Yes. So I want to be like that, and I want to learn how to recorrect what I believed previously. I'm just really excited for this new learning portion in my life because I thought I was a scholar, truly. I really did.
Yeah.
I thought I had it all down. I'm like, I'm independent, I'm making money, I don't need a man. I am good to go. Like my future, my career, everything is great. Like I got a dog, I'm fine. So
Classic modern, like millennial Zoomer. Just like, I got everything. I got money and a
What
computer and a
else?
dog. What else do I?
facts. I drive a Porsche, like this is great. So, man, my mind could not be more changed. Oh my gosh, my soul is forever changed from that. So
you never had a good relationship with your parents, and they keep getting divorced, and it's deeply painful, and it's very frustrating. And now you've kind of gone down this path, and some guy reaches out to you, whoever that is, and says, "Hey, you should join Only, and you'll make a lot of money and get famous."
Yep.
And then that happened.
It actually happened.
Which doesn't happen for anyone, but it did happen for you.
It was crazy because
crazy,
the
yeah.
guy was like a recruiter. I don't know if he worked with Only. I didn't like stay in contact with him along, but he was trying to get me to sign up under this code.
It's not my audio. It's
So-
been blurred on purpose, I think.
He tried to get me to sign up. I thought it
I
was
believe so, anyways.
so I didn't recruiter. I don't know if he worked with Only. I didn't like stay in contact with him along, but he was trying to get me to sign up under this code. So he tried to get me to sign up. I thought it was sketchy, so I didn't use his code. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't even know who you are. And then I started Only. I was doing it all by myself, and I made like $85,000 the first month.
Wow.
I had worked my butt off for a month, and I knew that I wanted to create content on TikTok, on Instagram. I just like, I'm
Content or just any
just content. Like I'm a creative person,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make videos for TikTok. I wanted to quit my job because my job at the time in orthopedics was going nowhere. I was not getting promoted. I was just kind of in the same spot that I was like 2.5 years ago. And I was so disappointed in that because I know
Repetitive.
I'm like a leader. I know I'm like supposed to be the CEO. I just know, like I feel it in my bones.
When I started broadcasting on the internet, I think I made $85 in my first month, maybe my first year. $85,000. So how? This is not.
It's okay.
I mean, no way am I. You're a lovely gal. I'm sure you were very good at it.
Yeah.
But how is it that the median income on OnlyFans is like $300 or something a month?
Something
Or
like
I
that.
think maybe even lower than that.
Yeah.
So how did you manage
What
to-
was it about you that was able to make, annualized like $1 million a year?
The biggest
Starting out for day one.
So the biggest thing I think that changed my own career was that I had a niche in the system. One, I have red hair. Two, I'm a gamer. Three, I love anime. And I'm a cosplayer. So I put all of that energy into creating Nala.
You're a weeb.
I'm a weeb.
Is that what is
Hardcore
that?
weeb.
So I learned that term because you're the second weeb that's been on this show. The first one was Archduke Edward Habsburg, the Hungarian ambassador to the Holy See, and the second one is Nala Ray. So you're into all this weird nerdy stuff.
Weird stuff. Yeah.
That's what made you $1 million a year starting day one.
Yeah, I just think that no one was doing stuff like that on Only at the time. And I was just like, let's try it, And I started in mainly on my cosplaying because my biggest thing that I sold was that I'm not just one girl, I'm multiple girls. Because
So
when you
cosplaying
cosplay,
is
changing
costumes?
hair, makeup, I wear fake contacts and outfits. So I completely looked like a different person. And so had
So different,
characters
okay.
kind of to each character kind of thing, like their own personality almost.
Okay.
So I was like multiple women in one.
Two for the price of one. There you go. Yeah.
So that was like my selling point, was just kind of that. And the first month I was only selling like lewd pictures, and that was about it, and talking to them on Only. I didn't get into until like quite a few months later. I was like really trying to think about it first because I was getting so many offers to start or doing more and more for more money.
So you were making 85 grand a month without, it was just naked pictures basically?
That's it. That's literally it.
So, wow.
And sexualizing talk with them, but that's about it. Like from the comfort of my own home.
But that's never, so I don't know, knowing a little bit about human nature, I know that would never be enough for anybody because that's not how lust and desire work.
Yeah.
But one could imagine, you say, okay, I'm now going to make $1 million a year. and I've compromised my dignity, and I've given myself some reputational damage, but it's only nude pictures. These days, every woman sends naked pictures.
That was
from the time she's
definitely
18.
my
Start
logic at the
slowly.
time.
And so,
Start
why wouldn't you
slowly.
then say, $1 million's enough, no more. I'm only gonna keep doing this. I'm not gonna go further and make, full videos.
What's crazy is there was like a time in that period before I started that my parents had found out, and
How did they find out?
So it was a crazy circumstance. I was out to dinner with my parents, just me and them, and a waiter came up to our table and was like, "Are you Nala?" And I was like, "No, like absolutely not." And all my mom had to do was Google the name Nala. There's no other Nala out there, nothing. And it showed everything, like my
Busted.
Twitter.
So Nala is your stage name? Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Okay, so she had never heard the name Nala.
Nothing.
But this guy, also what
I
a
was
creep.
so angry. I was like, "Can you not see that I'm with my parents?"
But even then, even if you were alone or with friends or something, or
Yeah.
if you're a dude and you see a actress, wouldn't you just keep it to yourself? Because basically you're going up and admitting like, hey, I'm a
I
pervert.
watch you.
Yeah, I'm a freak, man.
You'd be surprised. I have had so many people over
No,
the
but-
years come up to me out of the
But that's fans. Like he's a pervert. Yes, you're completely correct. But they almost view it like a fan. Like they've been consuming the content. So to them, to their sick mind, it's like watching Logan Paul, KSI, or a female YouTuber or something. They're like, oh my taste. Probably trying to get an autograph or something like that. So I completely get both sides, but it's the degeneracy that we're living in is crazier and crazier now. So
no
yeah.
other Nala out there, nothing. And it showed everything, like
you
my
Nala?
Twitter.
So Nala is your stage name? Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Okay, so she had never heard the name Nala.
Nothing.
But this guy, also what
I
a
was
creep.
so angry.
Could
I
you
was like,
imagine-
"Can you not see that I'm with my parents?"
But even then, even if you were alone or with friends or something, or
Yeah.
if you're a dude and you see a actress, wouldn't you just keep it to yourself? Because basically you're going up and admitting like, hey, I'm a
I
pervert.
watch you.
Yeah, I'm a freak, man.
You'd be surprised. I have had so many people over the years come up to me out of the blue and just be like, "Are you Nala? Can I take a photo with you?" I'm like, "You know what? Sure."
That's what I
Like,
just
Wow.
said. Literally.
Part of the business, unfortunately, but there are a lot of people who have come up to me a lot. And so it's just like, okay, like, what am I going to say? No?
Yeah.
Like, at the time, I'm like, I just need to be kind to everybody. You know, they are my supporters. You know,
Yeah,
they're
they're paying
giving
your
me
bills.
money.
Yeah.
So what am I going to say and be mean? Absolutely not. I'm not a mean person anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's how they
Tough.
found out. My mom like didn't know at the direct time at the dinner that was who I was. But then like the next couple of days, she found out, did research, and that was when I decided to move to California at that time. So I was already going to be leaving Florida, but it was so hard.
Why were you
because-
going to move to California?
What's that?
You said you were going to move to California.
I was
Wha-
in Florida at the time.
But
I was
why-
gonna
why did you
move
wanna- just
because
for-
my business had started growing,
Got it.
and I didn't want to be near my family while I was doing this. I wanted to keep it all separate,
Isolated.
and I felt like a big fish in a little pond. In Florida, I did, and I wanted to be a little fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
So just to network and see where it went. But again, I told you, like I'm a leader. Like whatever I try to put my time and energy into, I do it 100%, and I will go hard. So what happened was like my parents kind of disowned me, and like I stopped talking to all my siblings, and it broke me.
Not to bring up a bad memory, but
okay.
you sort of
Crazy.
seem to gloss over that a bit. You say, and so my parents disowned me, and this, but that sounds like catastrophic.
Terrible.
I mean, so
It
you're-
was we had this like final talk the day before I left for California, and we were just out on my porch in my apartment, and my mom didn't say a word to me the whole time when I was like, they knew I was moving the next day, but didn't say anything to me, wouldn't even look at me. And my dad was just kind of like trying to come to terms with it verbally, but I wasn't saying anything because I was like, I don't know what you're trying to work out here, but I don't like know what you want me to say. Like, I know you disapprove. I just want to know if you still love me.
yeah.
But I didn't ask that directly. But the one thing that my mom said before they walked out the door was just like, I hope you're happy in your endeavors. And then just left. And it broke my heart, truly. So,
But she must have been in some
Painful.
immense pain.
Absolutely.
Probably felt a bit of guilt. Oh. It's all right.
It's all right. seek first the kingdom of God, man, because what point is it for you to obtain everything and then lose your soul in the process?
Very
Money doesn't bring
dreadful
happiness.
thing all around. And
I'm
of
telling
course,
you feel disgusting and you
they
have no
probably
family
felt
to
a bit
spend
of
it
guilt
with.
because they are thinking of, their own actions, and it kind of leads to this. And so, what do you say? Can I get your tissue?
Yeah, thank you.
What a gentleman. Okay, well, he's not
I
getting
think
himself, but
the biggest thing is that
well
I've
done for
never
asking.
really dove into that feeling.
Yeah.
Never talked about this. Because again, it was just something I was like, I can't even deal with this. I can't think about it.
Yep.
It is hurtful to think that your parents actually do have like a line
Ladies.
drawn in the sand
Yeah.
to
Listen to her,
what
man.
they will
Ladies.
accept and not accept, and will they actually like love you past a certain point. And I guess that answer was kind of no.
Do you think it was no, though, or do you think they were just kind of
I kind of think that because I went 3 years without speaking to my mom. Like there was absolutely no communication, and except for she did send me a letter, like an email, that was just saying that I had drifted far from God and that this wasn't His purpose for my life. And I was like, okay, thanks, appreciate that. Like that's great. I was very hurt by that because it just didn't feel real. I didn't feel like she was being real with me. I felt like she was judging me. And I don't deal well with judgment. I'm a very rebellious person when it comes up to judgment. Like that's just kind of who I am sometimes, which I'm not saying is right.
me switch this
but
on.
I really came at it like, I don't care what you say.
like, that's what you're going to say to me?
Thank
After all,
you.
that's
Right.
what you're
I
going to
was
say
like,
to
well,
me?
I'm already on this path. Why not just keep going? And that point in my life, I remember that was when I was like, I have nothing else to lose, you know?
Food
We have
for
the
thought.
slowest tissue service in the world.
It's okay.
Here we are.
Wow, I
we can-
appreciate you
yeah.
so much.
We can just keep rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. So you have this heartbreaking moment
Mm-hmm.
with your parents, and then you move the next day.
For good.
Did it hit you, the significance of that at the
Absolutely.
It did, okay.
I was very hurt, but didn't know how to like express anything. I had no emotions to express with that. I remember standing in my shower, just like letting the hot water go over me and just staring at the floor. I wasn't crying, I felt nothing. And I was just like, okay, like, let's move on now. Like, let's go. Because if I let this, I always felt that like emotions could weaken you. Like in that, I really did. I don't know why, I can't explain why I felt that, but I needed to be strong for myself. And I knew that I needed to continue going on.
Do you think there's anything your parents could have said that would have gotten you not to do it?
Absolutely.
Good question.
I said that in
Like
my
what?
last interview as well. Like if you could go
Like
back
what?
and if someone could have said something to you, would you have changed your mind? And the answer is 1,000,000%. Because
so.
I know how I react to love, to true love. Like I feel the genuinity in it.
Guys, let
I
me know what you
feel
guys think
that-
about this, but I don't think she would have went back.
feel like
I think she already made
if
her mind up.
somebody, I don't know who, but a friend or a boyfriend or my parents or one of my siblings could have sat me down and didn't say anything elaborate, but just, hey, like, this is not it. Like, expressed the warning in this, like warned me in any manner, because I didn't know anyone in the field, nobody in OnlyFans yet. I'd only just kind of had people around me that were in my previous life, and that was it. But I didn't have any friends, like no friends at all. I was just kind of working every single day, and that was it, in my little apartment with my dog. Like that was it. So I wasn't really like in the outside world. I was just kind of in all the time.
Just you and a
So
computer, basically.
That's it. And my iPhone, like that was it. And like I had sets kind of set up around my home to do like different cosplay shoots and stuff, but that was it. Like my home wasn't even look like a home. It was like a big studio. So if someone would have said like, hey, you are worth so much more than this, or I was really struggling with insecurity at the time and thought that was like why I needed the attention, and the attention did feel good. And for people out there wanting to be like, oh, she just wanted attention, you're absolutely right. I wanted attention. Whatever that attention looked like, I didn't care because I just needed to feel something, you know? And I feel like I craved that so much, was just being able to feel something. And that's definitely a wrong way to go about it. But I did it and I can't take it back. But there was a lot of crucial moments in my life, like in that world, that broke me and continued breaking me. And then it was like, it's like when you're in the military. I've never been in the military, but I've heard a lot of stories like you get broken and rebuilt the way they want you to be built up, correct? So I felt like I had just been broken and broken and broken and broken and just needed to heal and get over it, like stuff it back.
So what's the progression?
So after that significant thing happened with my parents, I started, and it was only with my partner. And I do want to clarify something, not that it matters, but I get frustrated at the people on the internet saying like, oh, you have so many bodies. In the 5 years that I was on OnlyFans, I literally slept with 3 people. And 2 of those were my partners. Like I was in relationship with them for over a year. So, because 2 of them did only, so it was like a part of our relationship that we just did only together and sold it.
You racked up a lower body count than probably the average American undergraduate in that period of time.
Which
That's
is
what
insane.
I'm saying. So I was never about like sleeping around, but my image online needed to be that so that other people, like, so the people that buy my content are what? Men. Men, if they think that they have a chance with me, they'll buy my content because they just want to speak to me, right? So I'm really good at marketing myself in that manner to think that they could potentially have a chance with me. I never marketed that I had a boyfriend. It was just people I was sleeping with. And that's how I would market my OnlyFans in the messages. It was like, oh, I met this guy at the bar. It's my boyfriend. Oh, I met this guy at the mall. It's my boyfriend. Like, but most of the time they wouldn't show their faces, so you really couldn't tell. So I'm a genius at marketing that way. I really was. Like, I
not sure how much
knew
validity
what
is in
men
there,
wanted.
bro.
I even read some dating books. Like, one of them was called The Game. I can't remember who it was
It's like
by.
a pickup artist thing,
Something
right?
like that. And I wanted to understand men's brains to be able to do my work correctly. Like
Certain kind of male brain, I guess.
Yes, a different one for sure.
So at this point now, it's no longer just you're taking pictures and basically selling lust or enticing lust, and that's how there's now this layer of deceit because you're lying.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But
I'm selling a fantasy.
But are you justifying this to yourself? Is it sort of like, well, I'm an actress and I'm playing a role, or are you not justifying it at all and you think, who cares? I'm just doing whatever. And
I think a little bit of both. I didn't think about it that much at the time. I just knew I was in a world of fantasy. Like you're not even touching me anyway. You know what I'm saying? And it's a fantasy, right? The man is experiencing a fantasy with the girl that he's watching on screen. You know, so I was like, I'm a storyteller. That's how I kind of looked at it.
So who's this boyfriend though? This boyfriend, he had his own only.
Yes.
Men have only.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They don't do half as well, or even a quarter of well as women do, because women don't buy, men buy.
I had a thought
Crazy.
that I would start and I would read Italian poetry. Fully clothed.
That would be beautiful.
It would be beautiful. Right? Now the problem is I'd be giving money to because they'd get a cut of it.
Yep.
So I could, but now you're telling me I would only, at best, I'd do a quarter as well.
I'm sure that there is a crowd that would love to see you.
But that means what? I'll make 20 grand a month? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's not worth it.
With the amount of people on OnlyFans, I think you would have a good shot, honestly.
So he had his own thing, and that's got to be just for gay guys.
Yep.
There's no way it's
just
women
called gay baiting.
Yeah.
And it was a very disturbing thing that I had to witness for sure.
Wow. So you're dating this guy who is doing gay or gay adjacent stuff, and he's your boyfriend, and he's your secret boyfriend because he's also your scene partner.
Yes.
And did you have this sense? I don't purport to know how female psychology or even desire work, but do you have the sense of like, this guy ain't Prince Charming. This guy ain't the man of my dreams.
I knew I was not going to marry that man. I just thought it was like more of a work relationship. It was like, cool, we both do the same thing. That's great. Like, I didn't care. And again, I had this crazy feeling inside that I would probably never get married. because of like what I did. And I was like, you know, if I have
Is
to
she
accept
married?
that, I just need to accept that. I did not by any means think that that was going to be my husband or anything. Like I knew it was a short-lived relationship.
Had you wanted to get married as a kid or a young?
Yeah,
you did.
absolutely.
And most girls, they dream of their wedding day.
I did for sure.
And then, but at some point though, you start pursuing this thing because it's going to lead you to your other goals and it's going to make you rich and famous. But then you end up, I guess this is how a Faustian bargain works, the thing that you were aiming at, you end up losing.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, well, to have this life, which includes getting married, I got to do, and then, but actually, the going to preclude me from getting married. But oh well, never mind. At least I'm still doing.
At least I'm still doing. In my mind, it wasn't. I'm doing. It was like at least I can be financially independent. Like I was like
money was
I
a big
made
part.
so much more money than my partner at the time. So much more money.
I would imagine.
And so in my head, it was just hard to see like a man who would be able to accept that. Like a woman making more money and being the complete breadwinner. Like I could come into your life and spoil the F out of you. Just like everything, you know, could give you whatever you wanted. And that
I'd love a Patek Philippe watch would be good.
You.
Maybe like some kind of a nice briefcase. Or I'm just, you know.
I heard you like the
didn't get the
Kiehl's lip
I
balm.
do. That's probably the most expensive thing I have around
so
here. Those things are like $1,000 a tin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right. So you're saying it's not even just I want to be financially
At her
independent
job.
compared to my family growing up. Say you're saying even compared to this guy I'm dating, this guy's a schlub. He's poor compared to
Absolutely.
me. And I'm so.
I had very little respect for him. Very little.
Fair enough.
Right. Well, you're gay baiting. And I
days.
thought that was really gross, honestly.
That's weird,
like, but he didn't do that the whole relationship. He had just started that almost by
What
the end
is
of our
even that?
relationship.
What
I
even
was
is that?
so
Gay baiting?
against it.
What
I
is
didn't
gay
know how to
baiting?
feel about it. I was like,
How homophobic of
Ew.
you. Very homophobic.
yes, of course, obviously. It was very hard to deal with for
baiting.
the short amount of time that I did deal with it, but I really didn't understand it.
But why, again, I don't purport to understand female psychology. Why was it so important to be financially independent? Like, why not just, you know, you're obviously a charming, smart, good-looking girl. Why not just like go marry a rich hunk? And
You know,
why do
I was told that by people, including my dad. Like, you could be a trophy wife. I was like, ew. Do we literally have a Gucci bag flung in front of my face and
Right.
be like, ah,
Yeah.
ew?
Yeah.
No, I'm a very independent person at heart, and I never wanted to be controlled. I have a very hard time being controlled. Like, I feel like a bird. I want to fly, you
Right.
know? And I was like, I will not absolutely do that. But so many people that I've met in my life were trophy wives or little like sugar babies.
Oh,
I was
A
so
sugar baby. Yeah, I've heard about that on the whatever.
I could
podcast.
never. Oh my gosh, never. I feel like I would overtake that man in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'd be like, nope. But
Sugar
But
baby.
I guess, sure, you don't want to be just a trophy wife or something like that. But I guess in modernity, it seems like those are the two options that people think
Yeah.
they have. You can either be totally independent, I am woman, hear me roar, I'm going to go make all the money, or you can just be, you know, the Stepford wife or something. But
a wife.
like in a healthy marriage, there is
it's
a
the
mutual
money
dependence.
aspect that's making it.
I'm very dependent on my wife. I consider myself the head of my household. When rubber meets the road, you know, I'll step up. I'll be the macho man. But in terms of practical life,
Right.
my wife does a lot. I'm
she's
extremely
the
dependent on her.
nurturer.
I would
She's
starve.
like the homemaker.
I would be emaciated if my wife were not. Or I don't know that I actually physically pay a single bill in my home. I don't. Could you imagine if I were left with the kids for 2 days? What would
Oh,
happen?
gosh.
They'd probably have me tied up, you know, hostage, and they'd run around like crazy. You know, meaning, and beyond these very practical things, there are even deeper kind of dependencies that I have from my wife, and she has many from me too.
Yeah.
You know, not to. I don't
Of
want to seem
course,
like I'm
it's
being
a
falsely
unity.
modest.
Right.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
both
she-
bring a lot to the table.
Right.
But it's like it fits perfectly. Because
Right.
again, the wife is like the neck and the body, and the man is the head. You know,
yeah,
you can't
right.
walk around without a head, and the head cannot walk around without a body.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's precisely, in fact, that's the perfect image for it. So, meaning at this time in your life, you think, well, I don't want to be dependent on a man, particularly this schlub that I'm dating. So, but did you not have a sense that you could have a good marriage? Where
at the time, absolutely not. I was just so, again, numb. I was just like, you know, this is what I did. I need to accept the there's consequences to your actions.
Sure.
I need to accept the consequences to these actions. And I had no idea I was going to get radically saved by Christ. So in that form in my life, in that period of time, I was like, you know what? I need to potentially understand that I could definitely be single for the rest of my life. And that was it was a hard pill to swallow.
So it did.
was
That
like-
saddened you to
It
come to
did,
that realization.
absolutely. I was like, man, maybe I should have thought about this a little more, And again, I've had people in the industry who are still in the industry get married, but I didn't want that. I wanted to be out of the industry to get married. I did not want my husband to have to accept that.
Yeah.
Like
what-
accept me,
Right.
but not that. Like I didn't want to be married and be on Only, like at all.
What kind of a marriage is that?
What kind of?
not-
I would not understand that.
One could, if one were in that predicament, one could have a proper marriage, but you couldn't do it but you would have to quit Only. You couldn't do it while you're
Absolutely. Like if I was a husband and my wife was on Only, I'd be
It'd be insane.
shocked.
It'd be insane. Yeah.
It would be the insecurities that door brings for a husband.
And the
a
husband
wife.
becomes a pimp. He's just a pimp, basically.
That's exactly what it is. 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And that's like you're encouraging it because what? Your wife's making you money? Is
Yeah.
money really that important?
Right.
It was to me then, but oh my gosh, my viewpoints have changed so much since then.
Why was money so? I mean, I like having money. It's nice.
Yeah, but what
But-
was so important to you to have, right?
And when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money.
Me neither.
And I have more money now, certainly. And it's great. But practically speaking, I still wear pretty much the same clothes. Maybe my sweaters are a little nicer. And I still eat pretty much the
Cashmere.
same food. Yeah. Shaggy dog once a year. And, I don't know, I still drink pretty much the same drinks and smoke pretty much the same cigars. And practically, I guess there's a number on a
Right.
screen that is larger, but practically it doesn't, at a certain point, it really doesn't affect your life that much.
I understand.
Certainly
It really
wouldn't.
doesn't. And I came to that point, that conclusion that, I was making millions and I didn't feel any different. I
Yeah.
could buy anything that I wanted and I still felt the exact same. And that feeling that I was feeling was empty. All that numbness was emptiness, like complete and total emptiness, and unaware of that for sure. But loneliness, emptiness, not feeling fulfilled. I was like a creator and I was like, oh, I'm being creative, but that's such a lie. Like that's not creative to spread your legs. It's not.
Right.
It's not at all.
It's not even procreative.
Not
You
at
use
all.
Contraception.
Absolutely not. And I went through this really crazy time where, this was very recently, where if we're ending my only career, I was feeling that more and more on a day-to-day basis. And I had met my current husband now on TikTok.
She's married.
That's
That's
is that
crazy.
news?
Yes, that's good news. Yes, it's very, very new news. I have a husband. I got married.
Marvelous.
So yeah.
And when did that happen?
God's been good to you, man. Guys, look, this is insane. Let me just add my 2 cents here, all right? If you throw away your integrity, you throw away all your soul, essentially, for money, guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a void because only Christ can fill a void that's embedded, that's deep in your heart. Okay, that's why so many multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires self-erase themselves, if you get what I mean. They self-erase, okay? They clock out, all right? Why? They've got all the money in the world. If it was all about money, then surely they would be super happy. I mean, they've got a bunch of zeros like in their bank account. By zero, I mean like, plenty of zeros. Number 0. So 1, 600 million or something. Plenty of zeros. You get the gist. But why are they not happy? And don't forget, I'm not talking about all of them. Oh, Ronnie MP, Ronnie MP, you're talking about... No, I'm not talking about all of them. You keyboard warriors. But the majority of them, or a large portion of them, aren't actually as happy as you might think they are. You've got all this money, but you're insecure. You've got all this money, but you're constantly afraid that it might get taken away from you. You've got all this money, but you tarnished your relationship with your family, you divorced or something, and now you're not really happy because you don't have people around you that you grew up with to be able to share that money with. The most fun part about having money is sharing it with your loved ones. I don't know if you didn't know, but that's pretty much it. The most fun part about having money is going out with your boys, holiday, talking about, remember when we didn't have money and now look at us, man. God's done so much for us. We're up now. We're doing greater and bigger things. That's the most fun part about money. If not, it's just what? Imagine you had $10 billion, but you can't leave your room. You can't pimp it out. You can't do anything to it. You have the money in your bank account, but you can't leave your room. Okay, I'm going to order pizza. I'm going to order all of these things. Yeah, but eventually you're going to get bored. You're going to want to leave. You want the freedom. So that's why very often I find a lot of people saying, I want the freedom, but if I could be free and I could pretty much not have to work, that's what I'm seeking for. That's what I'm after, the freedom that comes with having money. And as a Christian, I tell you, by all means, God didn't make us to be poor. It's God that makes rich. It's God that makes poor. This is in 1 Samuel, I believe, 6-9. God's telling us it's Him that makes rich, it's Him that makes poor. So everything is under God's control and God's hands. And I want you to be blessed financially through God. I don't want you to lose God in the process. That's the hardest, most difficult thing. One of the hardest and most difficult things to do in this planet, in this generation today, is to obtain money without losing your soul. Because our kingdom is the kingdom of heaven, one. But for you to obtain success in this realm, in this world, it is without losing your soul. As I said, you could do it losing your soul by becoming a clown, doing, all of this degenerate stuff. What she did, it's obtainable, but you're going to have that void. You're not going to be happy. And we don't know we're hearing what she's telling us, but only God knows the genuine truth within her heart. Maybe there are certain things that she just definitely doesn't feel comfortable sharing on camera that torments her till today. There's a reason as to why she cried. So there's more than meets the eye, but I absolutely congratulate her for opening up about it. It's super, super difficult. It's not the easiest of things. Being a pastor's child myself is not easy. I could relate with a lot of things that she said. You have to be, when things are happening for the church, you have to attend, you have to do this, you have to do that. You play the music. You play the guitars behind the, if you guys can see it. Let me lean this back. The guitars behind the scenes, okay? You play the guitars. You're in the choir. You do the church stuff. You do the choir everything. You get to preach as well. If you're of age, and understanding, now you can preach. You get to all of these things. So that pressure, I'm assuming, is what the devil allowed to sort of use to entice her, rebellious. Remember, she used to sneak outside of a house and go do a madness. All of this crazy stuff, it all leads to down like a path of like, okay, now I can entice her, freedom by yourself. Your parents disowned you. Look, they don't care about you. You see, if they cared about you, they wouldn't have disowned you. You returned, but they weren't happy, like the prodigal son, like she mentioned, and so forth and so forth and so forth. If you find yourself in this situation, forgiveness is your best friend. The biggest and best thing you could do right now is just forgive. If your parents wronged you, if siblings, whoever it could be that wronged you, and you feel like, although I did make a mistake, but they didn't welcome me in a particular way, just understand, because you might not be comprehending the amount of pain you caused to them, and you're just, almost like, not get over it, but you're like, it was 10 years ago. But yes, you don't know how big the wound could be that you created 10 years ago. So dive into the Bible, consume the gospel, and God will fill you with a loving heart, forgiveness, all of the things you're seeking for. So that's my prayer for you who ended up watching this video. If you watch this video also up until this point, I want you to comment the job answered. The job answered is just literally in 16 right now. It just randomly says in Job, okay? Sorry, then Job. I said Job. Then Job answered. If you comment that, it would let me know that you watched this video all the way to the end. So put like a bracket on it, then Job answered. It will let me know that you watched, up until this point. So I can know who's loyal, who's supporting me from the beginning, whilst we're taking off past 100,000 subscribers, past 200. eventually 1 million. Okay, so comment that in the comment section down below, and let me know your comments as well, like your thoughts. Let me know, what do you think? It's just, what do you think of all this situation? It's absolutely crazy. If your daughter was to start OnlyFans, if you're a guy, what would you do? What would you say? Would you disown them? Would you disown them? If they're like, okay, daddy, here's 5 million I just made, would you Hey, I'm just putting a lot of things out there, but would you disown them? That is the question. Would you disown your parent, your kids, your daughter, if this was to happen to them? So it is a tough pill to swallow, but I pray it never happens to any of you guys. I pray that God blesses you guys tremendously, and this is just a wake-up call for all of us, you know, to be able to dive it further into the Word of God. All right, so smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button if you love this type of content. Thank you for the suggestion to my subscriber who suggested this video, and link will be somewhere in the description down below for you to join our brotherhood where we're trying to obtain success without losing our soul. School Never Taught, SNT, that's exactly what it's called. And yeah, God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Before I forget, go to Michael's channel, link should be somewhere, and go subscribe and check out, because this content is fire. So go subscribe to him, show him